Well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
I don't really know how else to say this, but Canada's in a massive state of panic. Oh my goodness. You have all the premiers of Canada have gone down to Washington to basically beg for mercy, which is insane because a month ago, a few weeks ago, last week, earlier this week, Doug Ford was saying, hey, we can flick on or off the power all the way down to Florida. And today he's saying we need to have diplomatic solutions. So that's a big 180 from where he was previously. Danielle Smith is still bridging the gap between Canada and America. But Justin Trudeau, the resigned but not resigned, oh no les papiers prime minister, what is he up to? Well, he answers some questions from some reporters, and it's pretty messy. He seems to think that no matter what, we are still under the protection of the United States should Canada get attacked, whatever that looks like, a form of cybersecurity attack, a form of actual physical military force by like Russia or China. And this is something that is just factually not correct. Donald Trump, president, before he was this current term's president, about a year ago, almost to date, he was going around saying at rallies that, hey, yeah, no, I've talked to other NATO countries, and if they're not paying the bill, nothing I can do. And he's very dead serious about that. He's proving that he's dead serious about everything he's been saying. Hence, if you Google Gulf of America, that's what you're going to get. So there's a lot to take a look at in today's video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. And if you want to take it one step further, hit the post notifications, that little bell, so you can actually be notified of upcoming videos. I took to X this morning with something that I don't really know how to say. So I'm just going to read what I posted. Maybe this is relatable, maybe this isn't. But earlier this morning, I went out and somebody asked me what it means to be a Canadian. And I just stood there and blinked for way too long. I've lived here my entire life. I'm 31 years old. How the heck do I not have an immediate answer? And maybe it's a sense of pride of this country that's just kind of diminishing. I mean, I was in the military. I wore the flag on my left shoulder every day. I just feel like Canada is dwindling and we're a dying nation. And that's not me saying that the solution is to be acquired by America or become the 51st state. I don't think that that's the solution at all. It just feels like our level of patriotism is like a balloon that's flying around the room, slowly letting its air out. Maybe I'm alone, maybe I'm not, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that. And then you have Chrystia Freeland, who took to X and said this: Canada stands steadfast with Ukraine and the brave people of Ukraine who are on the front lines in the fight against tyranny. It is in the interest of all democracies to support them. Ukraine must become a full NATO member. To which I replied, nope. Canada doesn't want to inherit their problems. And actually, I'm going to double down and say that we need money and resources from Ukraine because we're about to be illegally invaded from America. And so come on, Ukraine, pay up. We need your help. It's for democracy, right? Yeah, funny how that works. Then you got Justin Trudeau, who's speaking to reporters here and discussing just negotiations about Ukraine and ongoing conflicts around the world.
Every year now for the past number of years, we've had a Canada-EU summit to talk about all the things that we have been doing together and can continue to do together. The friendship, the allyship, the partnership between Canada and the European Union has deepened significantly over the years at a time where the world is more unpredictable and uncertain in so many different aspects. That's why coming together on issues of security, coming together on issue of protecting democracy, of standing up for the rule of law, but also coming together in shared values about creating a better, safer, more prosperous world for not just all of our citizens, but everyone around the world is something that truly drives us forward. On trade, since the signing of CETA many years ago, we've seen the creation of thousands of jobs, of tremendous prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and it's something we're very much talking about doing even more more of in a reliable and trustworthy way. Beyond that, we're also talking about security issues. Our unequivocal support for Ukraine remains unbelievably important, not just because, yes, we need to stand with our Ukrainian friends and partners as they face this illegal Russian aggression, but because standing up for Ukraine is also standing up for the international rules-based order that protects us all and has led to extraordinary prosperity these past 8 decades. This is a moment for all of us to continue to stand together, and as friends and partners, it's exactly what we will always do.
Hell no. Look, I feel for the people of Ukraine and Ukraine Canadians and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, that's not our responsibility to inherit their problems and to basically front the bill on all of their issues. But let's segue away from that and take a look at what Premier Danielle Smith has to say when asked by reporters some questions.
Can I just say first a couple of things. I think diplomacy is working. I think that the fact that we got a 30-day reprieve was because we agreed to work on the cross-border problem of fentanyl. I was pleased to see the federal government announced a fentanyl czar, and my administration has already been in touch with him to talk about how in Alberta we can lend to the success of those efforts. So what I would say is what I've seen from this president is that he is prepared to make a deal. We've made a deal on that. I think we can make a deal on steel and aluminum by making very much the same argument that I've been making on energy and critical minerals. We've won the argument that those raw materials are essential to American success. It comes in, it makes value-added products, it creates good American jobs, it creates good American products that we buy back. Same thing for aluminum. They just do not make enough for their defense industry, their auto industry, and their critical needs. So I think aluminum, we can make the very same argument. And on steel, we buy as much steel products from them as they buy from us. On USMCA, it has to be renegotiated. I think we have to remember we've got 2 sets of tariffs. This first tariff was about dealing with the fentanyl crisis. And I think that we have satisfied the president that we're working on that. The second round of tariffs will come with the renegotiation of USMCA. And I think the sooner we get a government with a 4-year mandate, the sooner we can open that up and solve the broader range of tariff issues that we have.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good. It's not looking good the way that our country's been dealing with these threats and with these negotiations. But at least Danielle Smith is doing her best, and she's kind of bridging that gap, trying to find some form of a resolution. But now let's look back at what Justin Trudeau is saying when he's been asked some questions by reporters. So here we go. Canada will respond in an appropriate and calibrated but extremely strong way, regardless of what the U.S. moves forward with. We don't want to be in a trade dispute, yet the solution or the brought to the table resolution has been, hey, let's hit them back dollar for dollar. Not a very good start to this.
The White House says that the total tariffs on aluminum and steel could be 50%. What's your response to that, and why do you think that President Trump continues to escalate his threats?
I think it's important to understand that Canada will respond as appropriate in a calibrated but extremely strong way, regardless of what the U.S. moves forward with. We don't want to be in a trade dispute. We think that the best thing for all of us in North America is to continue to work together, to focus on some of the international trade challenges, whether it be non-market economies or rising authoritarian economies, that need to be countered by friends and allies working together on energy, on AI, on critical minerals, on the kinds of things that we can do to create shared prosperity across not just our continent, but all Western democracies. This is our focus. If we have to take some time to put that on pause while we stand up for Canadian jobs, while we stand up unequivocally for Canadian sovereignty, we'll do that. It's not our choice. We don't want to be doing that, but we will. Regardless of the level of tariffs that eventually the administration might move forward on, we will be equally unequivocal in our response.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the right way to go about it. Canadians do not support this at all. And something that's extremely more controversial is Canada getting annexed. Will Canada become the 51st state? Justin Trudeau continues to say no when he's asked that question by a reporter.
When Mr. Trump started talking about Canada being a 51st state, your government's original response was to say that it was a joke. Now you're saying that this is a real thing. Can you take us into your mindset? What was the moment that made you switch from thinking it's a joke to a real thing?
I don't think there's a switch. I think, as I've said unequivocally from the beginning, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will ever be the 51st state. At the same time, from having worked with President Trump for over 8 years now, I can tell you that we have to take seriously what he says and make sure we're responding appropriately. And quite frankly, the response of Canadians over these past weeks has been inspiring, as people have been there for each other, people have been changing their vacation plans, people have been looking at ways to buy Canadian, to support local businesses, to diversify their supply chains to places like Europe and Asia. This is a response of Canadians who are saying, yeah, this is going to be tough, but we're going to double down on Canadian pride and standing up for each other.
And there you go. Canadian pride it is, right? Canada first. A lot of people are boycotting America in different ways. They're canceling their trips to America. They're making sure that they're purchasing strictly made in Canadian products. And just let me know down in the comments if you're doing any of those things. This is pretty interesting. And now we got to talk about our defense and if we're still under the protection of America. Because Justin Trudeau thinks that we are. Let's take a look at his response, and then let's take a look at the reality.
Trump again talked about Canada's defense spending, and at one point he said, we don't pay so much when it comes to defense spending. This is a quote, because they assume that the U.S. is going to protect Canada, and that's not an assumption that they can make. If there was to be an attack on Canada, would you expect that the U.S. would respond and defend Canada?
We are all members of NATO. I had a great meeting with the Secretary General of NATO this morning, and we're part of an alliance that is there to stand up for each other. And I will highlight that Canada does take very seriously its responsibilities around defense, not just of Canada, but of North America. NORAD is the only alliance in the world where two countries have agreed to work together to protect their own homeland, their own territory. There's no other place in the world where two countries work together, and we both do our share of it. We've actually recently invested even more, tens of billions of dollars in modernization of NORAD, because we understand that the world is changing. The peace dividends following the end of the Cold War are over. We need to be investing more in defense. That's why when we took office in 2015 and saw that defense spending was below 1% from the previous Conservative government, we started massively investing in defense, and we're on track to triple our defense spending.
Yeah, but it's still not enough. So he keeps blaming previous governments, and that's just extremely, extremely annoying and outdated. Justin Trudeau in 2014, or I guess NATO in 2014, America, right, brought NATO together and said, okay, guys, you and Germany, Canada and Germany, you guys are way below 2%. You have to bring that up immediately. Canada and Germany said to Papa NATO, okay, we promise, give us 10 years and we will get there. Well, one country stayed true to that, and that would be Germany. Germany this year, finally, or I guess 2024, so like last year, but very, very close to this year, they finally hit, as per their agreement 10, 11 years ago, they would hit their 2%. They finally did it. Canada sits at like 1.3%. I don't even know if we're at 1.4, 1.5% of our GDP goes towards defense budget. That's insanely low. And so now Trudeau has said, okay, well, Canada's on track to hit it by 2032. That's not good enough. We are sitting ducks here. This guy thinks that we are just, no matter what, protected by America and by Trump. Well, let me just give you a bit of a reality check as to how that's not accurate at all. Dating back to February 2024, almost to the date, 1 year ago, Donald Trump said this at a rally.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. I came in, I made a speech, and I said, you got to pay up. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills. Most politicians have said to that, yes, we will protect you under any circumstance. Well, then they're never paying up. I said, no, you have to understand, you don't pay your bills, you get no protection. It's very simple. Hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO, and that's why they have money today, because of what?
I mean, we're just sitting ducks, man. This is horrible. Like, I don't understand why Canada isn't taking this seriously. Trump has literally said, and we don't know, there's speculation as to whether that he was talking about Canada or not, but it seems like that would be very likely that he was talking about Canada. But now let's take a look here at Justin Trudeau answering another question about NATO and how he feels it's going under the Trump presidency. Oh my goodness. Let's take a look.
Can NATO survive Trump, given that he's threatened the sovereignty of Greenland and Canada?
I'm sorry, Olivia, I'm getting a flashback right now because that was a question we answered, got asked and answered many times over the first Donald Trump mandate, where there were questions about whether Article 5 would be respected, whether NATO had a future. And here we are all these years later, continuing to commit to mutual defense, continue to invest significantly more in defense than we were 8 years ago. Yes, Donald Trump has had, along with the impact of shifting geopolitics, a spurring effect on just about all countries to do more on defense, to recognize that we are in a more challenging and unstable world. But that's exactly where the value of military alliances like NATO, NATO being the most successful military alliance in history, is all the more visible and all the more important in a world like this.
But don't these sovereignty threats?
Without America, NATO is extremely vulnerable. Without America leading the way, NATO is just also sitting ducks. Yes, there is an alliance between a lot of countries, and yes, the defense budget between all countries is significant, but America's contribution to NATO and also American defenses makes up, I think there's like a chart that I've previously shown, over half of all of NATO's contribution from every single country. And so without America, the world would just kind of be in a total state of chaos, militarily speaking. Like, you would just see invasions happen over and over and over again. So we're just sitting ducks. I hate it. I hate that we're just such a weak, vulnerable country right now.
Let's go against what NATO stands for. Isn't this new?
Donald Trump has always been someone who has challenged ways of doing things or various conventions around what gets negotiated or what gets said about one country or another. I think we need to focus on the core of the issue, which is we need to be able to be there to defend our sovereignty, defend our democracies, and support our partners. That's what we're all committed to.
Yeah, we can't defend ourselves. We can't defend or support our partners. It's just extremely horrifying, absolutely horrifying. And to finalize this video, we're going to take a look here at Justin Trudeau speaking. It is dubbed because he does say it in French, and so there's going to be a translator, but talks about how Canada is going to lose significant jobs over the steel and aluminum tariffs. Let's take a louk.
Good morning. Canada. Concernant les tarifs,
when it comes to the tariffs,
la Maison Blanche vous a fait des demandes.
Has the White House made any demands of you?
Est-ce qu'il y a des demandes?
When talking about exceptions, have there been any demands, or are you operating blindly? Answer: those are the conversations that we're having right now with the U.S. administration. But I do understand that people might be concerned There are many different conversations going on about tariffs. If we think about it, there's 3 tariff threats that are weighing on Canada currently. One is the 25% tariff and 10% on energy because of fentanyl. Even though we highlight that less than 1% of the fentanyl coming into the U.S. is from Canada, there is still work to be done. We have 30 days to demonstrate that even though it's a very small problem, we are still trying to reduce it further. The second thing in terms of tariffs would be the tariffs on steel and aluminum. There's been mention of 25% on both of those commodities. That would be something coming later on in mid-March. What we're doing is highlighting the fact that there would be significant job losses in the United States, as there was the last time they put tariffs on steel and aluminum. So this is something that would undermine the growth and prosperity of the U.S. We will be making those arguments, and that's the second set of tariffs that we're facing. And the third is tariffs that have a deadline of April 1st. It was mentioned in the America First trade policy signed at his inauguration. This talks about an imbalance in the trade relationship and a trade deficit or surplus. The Commerce Department is investigating that and will make recommendations. So it looks like everything is interconnected, but what we're doing is speaking directly and strategically with our partners in the American administration. And what we're doing is highlighting how these 3 sets of tariffs will end up hurting U.S. jobs and will end up hurting Americans as well as Canadians at a time when we should work together.
Yeah, well, you're saying we should work together, but then you're also saying, hey, they're hurting us, so let's hurt them. And like, you have your freaking Ontario premier that's calling to basically turn off power in America. So that isn't a work together approach. That's a tit for tat approach that nobody wants. What America's asked of Canada is pretty reasonable in order for, you know, fixing the border and all that stuff. The steel and aluminum tariffs, I mean, that's something that's a little bit different. I don't think that there was a, if you don't fix this, then we're going to do the steel and aluminum tariffs. That kind of came out of nowhere, but hey, that's for the bosses to kind of negotiate and figure out what the heck is going on, which is probably why the premiers are down in Washington. There's a lot going on in Canada. It's extremely stressful. There's a lot of moving parts, and it seems to change day to day. But what I do know for certain is if Canada doesn't play nice with America, it's not going to end well for Canada at all. And that's my own personal opinion, but I do believe that as a real fact. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about any of the topics, any of the questions that Trudeau answered, and also what you guys think about NATO and how Trump is not really interested in protecting Canada anymore. That is in the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later on. Bye for now.